This week, the trailer for No Time to Die was released. The hype can really begin now. And with the Bond Film of the Week series, we've already had 33% of the lead up down, because this week was centered around Live and Let Die. I think this was a great debut for Roger Moore, but it still honestly is one of my least favorites. I'm not too fond of the whole voodoo theme, the weird ending and that ridiculous villain death. The cast is great though. Solitaire is one of my favorite Bond girls, and I like the villains in here too. Fortunately, a lot of the tacky stuff is also present here, and I'm not too crazy about all of it. Still, this is an enormous leap forward from Diamonds Are Forever. Those are just my thoughts, and as always, let's see how some of my awesome supporters feel about this one.
Well, he's the kind of guy who thinks Fox made Venom, so what does he know? Oh, hi. Live and Let Die, 1973, directed by Guy Hamilton and starring Sir Roger Moore. Yes, Sir. That is, unfortunately, the most impressive thing about him as Bond. Look, to be completely honest, Roger Moore's Bond did not really, impress me all that much at first. It just feels weird seeing, like, a guy who, by all accounts, was just the nicest gentleman in existence, holding a gun and getting sent on missions to kill people. Other than that, his first movie was pretty good. The voodoo aesthetic was nice. The villains are fun. The title song by Paul McCartney and Wings, undoubtedly a means of, apologizing for that diss Sean Connery made at the Beatles and Goldfinger. One of the best James Bond songs. And Jane Seymour as Solitaire, to this day, still one of the hottest Bond women. I do have my issues with, the editing and the writing, but overall, decent movie.
Live and Let Die. Now we've come to the Roger Moore era of James Bond. This movie's a very mixed bag for me. On the one hand, I'm not entirely crazy about the blaxploitation vibe in this movie. For example, when Bond is walking around Harlem and New Orleans, and all the black characters are talking this honky-tonk slang and walking around their so 70s pimp outfits, it's kind of taggy to me. And this movie also has some really bad comedy. Like, Rosie Carver, such a horrible, useless character, and the less say that about Sheriff Pepper, the better. However, this movie does also have a lot of redeeming qualities. For example, Moore, he's really good in his first time as Bond. He's so good with the quips, he's super funny, and he just has a really warm, likable screen presence. And this movie also has some really good action, like the boat chase and the famous crocodile jump, and some really cool villains. Kananga, good threatening villain, and some really interesting flamboyant henchmen in Baron Samedi and Tee. Overall, this movie it's far from my favorite, but it's not bad.
So, number 8, Live and Let Die. Great opener for Roger Moore. Love the sort of dry wit and sarcasm he brings to the role. It's just a lot of fun. Sheriff J.W. Pepper, great supporting actor. Well, character, sorry. Love the music by George Martin. It's got one of my favourite cues of all time, which is when Bond kills Adam in the boat where he throws the petrol on him and blows him up. It's a fantastic rendition of Live and Let Die theme song. Speaking of, love Paul McCartney's version. Equally as good as the Guns N' Roses one that he later used in Grosse Pointe Blank. Go give that a listen if you've not heard it. It's pretty damn good. Interesting fact about Live and Let Die is that the prop that Bond uses to communicate in Morse code, the little brush that he keeps, it later pops up, as does a number of other Live and Let Die props in the Doctor Who story, Revenge of the Cybermen. Don't know why that was. I found it interesting. Apparently Roger Moore just dropped it down the BBC one day. That will save them some money. But all honesty, this is a great film. Really fun. I love Dr. Kananga. Good villain. Really well done. Alligator Farm and the boat chase are two moments I watched religiously when I was younger. It's the only parts my dad would put on for me because I couldn't really watch the rest of the film when I was about 4. But yeah, going back on track, Teehee, like, I love his henchman style. I love the laugh. The Met Lam is just superb. But in all honesty, the fact that it ends on such a groan-worthy pun just means it's more fun than anything else. I can't really bring myself to hate the Roger Moore films just because I get some joy out of them. I don't know what it is about it though. I mean, the Connery ones I can take, the Connery and the rest of the series I can mostly take seriously, but Roger Moore just seems like this slight oddity in the whole series where his rendition is dry and humour. I don't know what it is. It's just so much fun.
Live and Let Die is a welcome return to the smaller scale Bond films from the beginning of the series. Gone are the grandiose settings, complicated plots, and tedious pacing of some other Bond films, and instead we have a good old-fashioned mystery with Bond investigating the deaths of 00 agents abroad. Does this sound familiar? Well, it should, since this film takes the bare-bone elements from Dr. No, which is then re-energized, repackaged for a new generation of audiences. From the get-go, suspense is the key, rather than pure spectacle. The set pieces start off well with a dead driver on a New York freeway. The snake in the bathroom also gives me chills. And also, the escape of the crocodiles is absolutely well done. The main set piece of the film, however, is the boat chase, which is a good enough, but boy does it drag. Not to mention Sheriff J.W. Pepper's appearance is a hindrance. I mean, the amount of times this man says Billy Bob really infuriate me. As for the finale, well, Kananga's lair looks like remnants from the You Only Live Twice volcano set, along with a monorail. I mean, it's just there, basically. I mean, that's just pure Only Live Twice. And the less said about his death, the better. Moore's Bond is introduced as a womanizing, witty and humorous adventurer and trickster. Gone is the suave sadistic streak of Connery, and in comes the charm. Compared with Connery, Moore's Bond is more approachable. However, he lacks the blunt instrument factor that made Connery so suited to the role. Instead of strength, we have charm. Instead of cynical wit, we are getting tongue-in-cheek humour, one-liners, and raised eyebrows. I mean, just look at Bond's expression when he listens to Solitaire's dilemma at having lost her virginity and her powers. As for the others, well, Solitaire's a wide-eyed, naive girl who becomes a cheeky, smart nymphomaniac. I really like her character, and I like how she can handle herself when needed. Shame more couldn't be done with her character because I think she had a lot of potential. Not to mention, Jane Seymour was hot in that film, as she is still hot to this day, in my opinion. If anything, this film has going for is the villains. Kananga was a unique villain for the series at the time. His plot was frighteningly realistic, and I like how his weakness on his belief in the Tarot and his possessiveness of Solitaire define him and are so evident. I also like how by the end of the film he has become a man in denial. Sure, he is grinning and is holding our two protagonists hostage, but the pain is still there, and he is seething. As for the henchmen, Teehee, along with Baron Samedi, are excellent and frightening, and they leave a lasting impression. Also, Whisper, who barely says a word, can leave an impression as well, actually. Apart from that, the film is okay. I mean, it doesn't drag on, the pace is fantastic, except for the boat chase, of course, and it goes into a satisfying conclusion. The music of the film, well, George Martin's score is workable and distinctive to this one film. Every time I listen to a clip of the score, I know it's from this film, but it lacks the Barry punch. However, the main title song by Paul McCartney is phenomenal, and I like the way how the series is going away from the bombastic of Bassie's songs, and in turn is giving a unique spin on the sound of the series. If Diamonds Are Forever was the last gasp and in denial party of the 60s Bonds, then Live and Let Die is the morning after, the waking of a new dawn. The Connery era was sadly over, whilst Lazenby was sadly forgotten. Overall, Live and Let Die is not in my top 10 favourites, but it is a more than perfectly serviceable Bond film, with a decent plot, decent villains, and decent pacing. And I can't ask for more than that.
Who are you? What do you want? Oh shit. Here we go again. What do you want from me?
Don't worry, Mr. Salmon. We just want to verify something. If you don't say the truth, however, this guy is gonna cut your little finger. Is Live and Let Die one of your favorite Bond films?
You know they're going to kill me if I say yes. No, it's not one of my favorite. Okay guys, so today I'm gonna talk about Live and Let Die, and it's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, in the series. First of all, I love Roger Moore as James Bond. You know, after these 3 films with Connery being bored and Lazenby not being that good, it's really good to have someone new in the role. And Roger Moore brings so much joy and his own personality, and he's not trying to be Sean Connery, which is a great thing. I really love him. Maybe it's my favorite Bond. I don't know. I need to watch all the films, but he is really good, even in this first, film. The whole cast is great. I mean, Jen Seymour is not the best Bond girl, but she's so gorgeous. And even if she is a bit naive and just a damsel in distress, she's still a good Bond girl. The cast of villains is one of the best in the series. I love Yaphet Kotto as Kananga. He is really calm and composed, but I really like how, he's going really crazy towards the end. I think it's really well done. I really love T. I think he is one of the best henchmen, and the fact that, he's having some lines with Bond and talking about his story, how his arm was, cut off by a crocodile. This whole exposition is really great, and it gives him a lot of personality, and for me is one of the best henchmen. Baron Samedi is great. I mean, he's iconic. He is in all James Bond video games and such. He's so good, and the only thing is you really see him in 2 or 3 scenes, but he's really good, and such a great character. The only thing is his fight against Bond is really over quickly, and it's not the best. Other things, even the smaller villains like Whisper and even the taxi driver are really small parts, but they are still memorable and good. So yeah, I think the team of villain is really good. I think the location are really great. The whole movie has its own atmosphere, something that I really like. And the whole voodoo thing is a bit far-fetched, but it's really good. I think it works, in my case, anyway. You've got a lot of great action scenes. I mean, the boat scene and the whole bus chase are really great and memorable. The boat chase is a bit too long, but, they really try to just to take the most out of it, and I think it's great. One more thing, of course, the soundtrack. Guys, the soundtrack is so good in this movie, and it was composed by George Martin, the composer of the Beatles. I'm a big fan of the Beatles, and I'm a really huge fan of Paul McCartney. I saw him in concert 4 times already. I'm going to see him again this year, and I even bought his last single. I bought his last single, 1 week ago, and I'm a really big fan. And Live and Let Die is such a great song, and even in concert, it's such a great tune. And in concerts, you've got a lot of fireworks and so on. It's such, maybe one of the best, if not the best, Bond title song in my opinion. So here you go, Live and Let Die, great movie, I love it. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you for The Man with the Golden Gun.
And that's it for this week's Bond Film of the Week episode in the lead up to No Time to Die. Would you like to join in on the weekly discussions and be featured with your review as well? Well, join the DBF community on Patreon, get access to my Discord server, as well as receiving other cool rewards. So join the DBF community and feel free to send me your review of The Man with the Golden Gun, and I'll be happy to feature you next week.